Hey all, and welcome back to the finale of the third HellfireComms Disneython. I gotta be honest, this hasn't been as big as the other marathons we've done, but it has been a very enjoyable time regardless. We've gone pretty much everywhere in the world of Disney and Pixar, from America to France to England, but today we're going down to Mexico, to Santa Cecilia specifically, to visit the world of Coco, and this is one of my favourite Pixar films to date. It's amazing. I can't say enough good stuff about it, but I can't just stay here talking about it. We do have a film to talk over, so we're going to count you down into it, and obviously we can't provide the content. You'll have to do that yourself. We just provide the talky stuff. Alright, here we go. Let's conclude the third HellfireComms Disneython with Coco in 3, 2, 1. Alright, mate. Coco, give me the basic deets.
So, basic deets on Coco was it is directed by a guy called Lee Unrick, who has been at Pixar for actually quite a long time. So he was the co-director on Toy Story 2, and then he co-directed Monsters, Inc. and Finding Nemo, and then his first kind of actual thing as a director was Toy Story 3, and then he got to direct Coco as well.
Wow, that's amazing, honestly.
I know, and what's even cooler is that he started at Pixar pretty much from the beginning, because he was an editor on Toy Story and A Bug's Life. So he sort of worked his way up to the role of director, and that's just always quite cool. Obviously, Coco came out in 2017, so it's pretty recent. I mean, I say pretty recent, and I'm just like, oh yeah, we're in 2019 now. It's not like a year ago. Oh my god.
Every step forward puts us a step closer into that grave, which is very fitting, considering the movie we're covering is all about Dia de los Muertos, otherwise known as the Day of the Dead. And yes, let's get it out of the way, there was another movie with a very similar premise to Coco. I can't recall, was it The Book of Life?
I believe it was, yes. It came out in 2014 and had quite an all-star cast, actually. And it was all to do with, the Day of the Dead and the land of the dead and exploring it, but I think that a lot of people weren't necessarily best pleased with it because the majority of the cast were not of Mexican or at least Hispanic origin, so it's kind of one of those, you're kind of whitewashing this, and people weren't quite happy. It's one of those things where there are certain cultures, pretty much most cultures on the planet, that do tend to get quite tetchy whenever anybody goes near their cultures, because there's always the worry that you're going to ruin it.
Yeah.
And I think that what Pixar did manage to do here with Coco was excellent. I think that they really did get to the heart of it, and it's really nice that actually the majority of the cast are of the sort of ethnicity of the characters, so you really do feel everything going on here. Like, the cast really do inhabit this world, and it's truly wonderful.
I'm going to meet you halfway there, because while I don't think you necessarily need to have the ethnicities,
I mean, yes, that is true,
of the cast match the characters, in Coco's case, it works and makes it 1,000 times more authentic, and it makes me feel more engrossed in, like, the characters and the world and so on. And speaking of, like, being engrossed in something, this movie is all about one of Disney's main strengths: music. It's not just incidental. The whole theme of family and music is interwoven throughout it, and it's not even like Disney either, it's Disney Pixar. This is their first musical, and they got it right. Every song in the movie is a hit, every single one.
I mean, yeah, they really are. Although I will forever be quite pissed off that Remember Me got the Oscar for Best Original Song against This Is Me from The Greatest Showman. I'm just like, no, that is not okay. Largely because I love Remember Me. It's a lovely little ditty. But one, there are better songs in Coco. And two, This Is Me was just much more impactful and empowering, and that annoyed me. That is not to say that I don't like Remember Me. It's just like, come on, levels. But then, to be fair, the Oscars don't really make much sense half the time. I mean, they've announced, actually, the Oscar nominations for 2019, and while I'm delighted, thoroughly delighted, that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has gotten a nomination for Best Animated Feature, and actually surprisingly delighted that Black Panther is the first superhero film to be nominated for Best Picture. I don't think that they chose the right song from Mary Poppins Returns to be in for Best Original Song. They chose I think it's like Where the Lost Things Are, and it's just like, no, clearly, cover is not the book. That's the highlight here.
Alright, here's Ed Tom coming in with his hot takes at, like, Mach 5. Black Panther, I think, was a really good movie. Its cast was fantastic, its story was decent, villain really engaging. I don't think it's worthy of Best Picture.
I mean, yeah, I would agree with that personally, but hey, representation, I can live with it.
Ernesto de la Cruz. He is everybody's hero here in Santa Cecilia, especially Miguel's. Who is Miguel?
So, Miguel is our 12-year-old aspiring musician hero who is delightful and charming and voiced by Anthony Gonzalez, who has actually done sort of a few things before Coco. So, he was in The Bridge, Imagination of Young, Criminal Minds Beyond Borders, so sort of just TV episodes and a short film before he got Coco. But I think that really he did phenomenally well in Coco. I mean, the fact that he actually ended up winning a few awards for his voice work here. He won the Best Animated Voice Performance at the Washington, D.C. Area Film Critics Association,
Aww.
Best Voice Acting in an Animated Feature Production at the Annie Awards, and Choice Fantasy Movie Actor at the Teen Choice Awards. So, I mean, like, bravo to him, because, like, for someone who he's 14... like, for God's sake, that's incredible.
Oh god, I do have a bit more to say about Miguel, but this bears paying attention to. Oopsie doopsie.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one way to go out.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah, this movie does not shy away from death and whatnot, and don't let the advertisements or commercials fool you. It may have led you to believe that this is a very goofy and quirky film. That's the vibe I got anyway.
No.
It treats its subject matter seriously enough. Like, there are morbid moments, but it has fun with, like, the celebration of the holiday and its people and its traditions and so on. I mean, I guess that could rub some people the wrong way if they wanted, like, less or more of it, but for me, I think it was a perfect balance. But anyway, what I was saying about Miguel, I'm not entirely sure of the validity of this, because obviously, unlike Richie, I don't have Wikipedia at my beck and call 24/7. But I feel like I remember hearing Miguel's VA did the scratch for the voice recording, which I guess is the rough work. It's not like the final stuff where the actual voice actor comes in, and they liked it so much, they actually brought him on.
I don't know whether that is the case, largely because I don't see anything on here. So, what I can see, however, is that Anthony Gonzalez first auditioned for the role of Miguel when he was 9, and was finalised in the role 2 years later, so he got this role when he was 11, like, my god.
Yeah.
So, during the film's pre-production, Miguel was going to be voiced by another child who was named Emilio Fuente, but unfortunately his voice broke and deepened due to puberty over the course of the film's production, so they had to, turn him to Slingy Hawk. So then Gonzalez got the role, which is one of those just like, I mean, what luck do you have to have auditioned for the role and sort of then only get it because the person who originally had gotten it, their voice broke.
Well,
like, wow.
Sucks to be him, I guess. I think every culture has this, like, relationship with their grandma, but I've, like, heard more so in, like, Hispanic cultures and whatnot.
Yes.
Like, Mexi, God bless him, he loves his abuelita something fierce.
Yes.
And I've seen in, like, many different shows and whatnot, when they take off their shoe and just, whack their kids and grandkids with it. Try not to get, like, the heel part. That's the part that really hurts.
Yeah, I think that the the abuelita, the Irish mammy, the Jewish mother, they are sort of a relatively similar stereotype across cultures, but I think that probably the ones that do link up the most together are probably, those three of the abuelita, the Irish mammy, and like Jewish mother of being very, very involved in their family.
So just in case it wasn't clear, Coco's mother, she was really pissed at Coco's father for leaving to follow his, musical passions and whatnot, and that's why music is basically forbidden here. And if you were paying attention earlier, I mean, obviously I would have hoped you've watched the movie before you watch a commentary of it, but the three dudes bopping along the street singing and whatnot, the mariachis, they were actually singing the Spanish version of Remember Me, I believe.
Which is it's one of the things that I do really like about this film is that it doesn't shy away from the Spanish words and the Spanish language, because obviously that is sort of a whole part of Mexican culture, is sort of their language. And what does tend to happen quite frequently in a lot of films is that language, you just get shifted into the English, and you might end up with one or two words that suggest the culture. So you might get abuelita, you might get señor, but that's sort of your limit. Yeah, that tends to be your limit, and you kind of just go, well, that's not the best thing in the world. So I like that this film just sort of allows its culture to be there.
Truth aside, I'm not sure if they were singing in Spanish, but Richie brought up an excellent point there, and he's valid, and I believe in him. This is heartbreaking, because, she's not dead or anything, but her memory is obviously fading right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily ever stated, but I think you effectively sort of get that Coco is sort of, because that is Miguel's grandmother, and or great-grandmother, and I suspect she's probably living with dementia or sort of late-stage dementia, because obviously when you get older, your memory does start to go.
Yeah.
But I think with Coco, it's clearly sort of at that point where she really doesn't remember very much at all, and that's sort of, I think, more in line with the likes of dementia or Alzheimer's over sort of just regular old age, because you've got people who are like 100 who are perfectly kosher. So, which is one of those who are just going, oh, you're making me feel sad. But that is something that Pixar do quite well. There's the whole joke of the Pixar films ideas is, what if blah had feelings? And I mean, effectively, Coco would be, what if skeletons had feelings?
Should be called What If the Audience Had Feelings, because I was fucking bawling at the end of this.
Oh, I know. Like, I was not expecting to be quite so emotional at the end of Coco. Like, I knew I was sort of, that I'd probably be a little bit tearful, because it's a Pixar film, and I know what I expect with these things. But, sort of the rendition of a certain song that turns up at a particular moment in time, that just broke me. I was ugly crying in the cinema, and it was it was not very pretty, but it was just a beautiful moment.
The fucked up thing was, I knew all the spoilers going in, because you sometimes you just can't avoid them, but
yes,
even then, my philosophy with spoilers is, to not be spoiled is a privilege, it's not a right. These aren't like cherished country secrets or anything, it's just the plot of a movie, or like a video game, or a book. You gotta remember, it's the journey, not the destination. Like, you need that context to have weight for these spoilers and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, the slight retort I would give to that is that some narratives work best when you have the surprise.
Yes, that's why I say it's a privilege.
Well, no, but I'm saying that some films are sort of utterly ruined if you already know the spoiler or the surprise or the twist going in. For other films, it's not so much a problem. I mean, I'd say in the case of Coco, ultimately its narrative is entirely predictable. You know exactly where it's going. You pretty much know exactly how it's going to end from the second it starts. There's a couple of twists and turns, but you know what you're going to get going in. There are other things which, while you may have a guess at the end destination, you don't actually know what's going to happen, and half the joy is not knowing what's going to happen. So the second you know, that joy is removed. But the best narratives still stand up, even if you do know those spoilers, and they're still enjoyable. So that's sort of, I think that's a decent point. A bit rambly, but we got there in the end.
It's fine, man. I was just going to say, how talented is Miguel? He obviously taught himself to play guitar by watching Ernesto's videos and whatnot.
I know. I mean, it's incredible.
Yes, the iconic red hoodie.
But I mean, I have to say, this is sort of impressive stealthing.
It's okay, Coco won't notice a thing.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily that Coco won't notice a thing. More, Coco don't give no shits.
Oh god, here we go. Is music coming back? Nope, you're gonna work in the shop with us.
Yay. This is always sort of one of those things where it's difficult because there are a lot of family businesses where there's sort of the expectation that the child is going to follow in their family's footsteps.
Yeah.
And in some instances, that is entirely what they want. Like, they're brought up with it, they love it, they want to continue at it. Whereas in other times, kind of like what's happened with Miguel here, is that that's sort of forced upon you and that's not quite who you are, so you feel obliged that you have to do it, but you don't want to, and so you end up really conflicted. And generally, that's when you start getting rebellious teenagers in those sorts of family businesses, because they get a bit grumpy and just go, no, I am not participating in this, I am making my own life, thank you.
What's great about these characters, though, Miguel's family, is they're not assholes, they're just people. It's like they're not being unreasonable. This was a family tradition, like he's booking here, and oh no. It just makes them feel a lot more genuine, is what I was trying to say.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, I think that it is just a really well done family in general, because even though we really don't spend much time with any of them, they are sort of fleshed out enough to be likeable.
Yeah.
And sort of you do feel the impact of everything that's going to happen.
Oh, looks like we got a long-lost family member.
Indeed. Although I'm sure there's probably a twist in there somewhere.
Richie, come on. I mean, if you've watched like the last 5 or so Disney or Pixar movies, you can probably guess what the twist is, because they're all the fucking same.
Basically. It's sort of at this point where you kind of just go, Pixar, do you... And I know you do like a really amazing job of like creating stories, but do you have any original plot structures?
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, it is sort of... It's the same for Disney. It's kind of the same for most of Hollywood, really. They just recycle the same narratives over and over again, just in different clothing. But honestly, if it's still enjoyable, there's a reason that these sorts of narratives stick and people enjoy them and want to watch them again and again and again, so can't really complain.
No. Oh, they're not gonna like this. No, get out of here. I'm going to do what I should have done 50,000 years ago!
I feel probably whilst we are here, I should probably go over some of the other voice actors, because we've only really done Anthony Gonzalez, and I mean, to be fair, he's sort of the main one, but
Yeah,
still.
speed for him, don't bother about any extra roles in one, besides maybe 1 or 2.
Okay, so Abuelita, Coco's daughter Eleanor here, is voiced by Renee Victor. Mama Coco is voiced by Ana Ofelia Mejia. Then Papa Julio, which is that's Coco's husband and Miguel's late grandfather. So no, that's the wrong one. I'm trying to now get to the actual family. So Papa, which is Miguel's father, is voiced by Jamie Camille. Mama is voiced by Sofia Espinosa. Dioberto, Miguel's uncle, is voiced by Luis Valdez. That's sort of all of the actual immediate family.
That's right, mate. That'll suffice.
Yeah, I know that there's the cousin or sister, or I don't even know at this point, but that's fine.
Well, you can't get in without a guitar, but where have you seen a guitar before, you grave-robbing piece of shit?
I know, it's just like, Miguel, like, seriously, man, don't do that, that's grave robbing.
Ah, I see. An ironic statement. I shall do just that.
Indeed.
Although saying he's a grave robber is, well, it's a joke first and foremost, because he's not really robbing a grave. Like, Ernesto de la Cruz was so famous around here that they had him entombed. He has his own tomb.
But, I mean, there are certain people who do reach this level of celebration. Not many. I mean, I honestly can't think of any in the UK who have gotten this type of honour. Obviously, there are many people who've been entombed, but it's mostly in churches.
Yeah.
And that's not quite this level. But hey, also that is a really nice guitar.
It really is. I'm amazed, like, it's a testament to how much the public loves De La Cruz and no one's, like, snuck in, like, before now to take that, because it would be basically sacrilege.
Exactly. And actually, it's probably a good time to bring up a little bit of the development side of things for Coco. So, Lee Unkrich first pitched the idea for the film in 2010, just after Toy Story 3 was released. Initially, it was going to be about an American child learning about his Mexican heritage while dealing with the death of his mother. But the team decided that it was the wrong approach and decided to reform the film to focus on a Mexican child instead. Unkrich noted that the original version reflected the fact that none of us at the time were from Mexico. And he was particularly anxious to depict a real culture, because he felt an enormous responsibility on his shoulders to do it right. Rightfully so, because something like the Dia de los Muertos is such a big thing, or at least we perceive it to be such a big thing in Mexican culture that you kind of don't want to screw it up, really.
No.
Pixar team made several trips to Mexico to sort of help define the characters and the story. Unkrich said, I'd seen it portrayed in folk art. It was something about the juxtaposition of skeletons with bright festive colours that captured my imagination. It has led me down a winding path of discovery. And the more I learn about El Dia de los Muertos, the more it affects me deeply. The team found it particularly difficult working with skeletal creatures, because they lack any sort of muscular system.
Yeah.
So they did have to animate them quite differently from their human counterparts. And ultimately, Coco took inspiration from Spirited Away and House Moving Castle, and surprisingly as well, the action film John Wick. As you do.
That one I haven't heard before, honestly.
Neither have I.
Alright, let's leave it there. We'll come back to it
Okay.
later. We'll come back to it later. This is very important now. I think strumming that guitar may have done something to our protag here.
Yeah, just a wee bit.
Well. How do you feel about the whole painted skeleton aesthetic, mate?
It's really quite cool. I think that it's done just right in this film, because you could go one way of it just being like overly ridiculous and overly stylized, at which point you just go, yeah, you're just kind of just taking the whole look of Dia de los Muertos and trying to evoke it by going too much into it. But I think that what they got here is just enough to make it look like the art of the schools that everyone kind of knows,
Yeah.
but not so much that it just seems unrealistic.
This is a very hopeful movie, in regards to the subject of death, if you've noticed.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of those things of, it does just make you feel hopeful about death, I suppose, it's a bit of a blunt and backwards way of saying it, but obviously a lot of people are quite concerned about the prospect of death and what happens after death. and it really does worry people. And so to have something like this, which, even if it doesn't necessarily depict your view of what is in the afterlife, or if there is an afterlife, it does make you feel more hopeful about what it might be like if there was a life after death. And also, it helps you if you're one of the people left behind, I suppose, when somebody dies. And it's sort of those things together.
This is the whole thing about Dia de los Muertos. It's remembering people. Like, remembrance, honor, and stuff like that are major themes in the movie. So, it's saying, don't cry because you miss them, cry because you remember them.
Basically, yes. Which is, it's a really wonderful idea to go with.
Oh, I love this Petal Bridge aesthetic.
Oh, I know, it's absolutely gorgeous.
So don't forget, the ofrenda, which they put all the photos of the family on, is a major thing. So when you take a certain person's picture off and the holiday rolls around, there may be some complications regarding to them crossing over and saying hi.
Yeah, just a bit. Also, can I just say, oh my god, this place is gorgeous.
Beautiful, beautiful.
It's one of those things where it's shots like this where my brain goes, you know, if they when they get to Kingdom Hearts 4, please can I have a Coco world? Because I kind of want to play around and run around this place, because just like, oh my god, that'd be so much fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's one of my favourite jokes in the film. It's a very funny movie as well. Like, I love the comedy in this. Like, the character writing is great, but the humour is just enough, I think.
There may perhaps be moments where you can kind of just go, it maybe skirts slightly too much on the side of childishness, but I think that that's sort of fitting considering Miguel is a child, so of course it's going to have that sort of vibe to it because we are seeing this whole world through Miguel's eyes.
Yeah, and it doesn't dwell on it, which I think a lot of the worst Pixar movies tend to do, honestly.
Yeah, definitely.
All good, you may go through. Not sure how I feel about the full heads of hair on the skeletons, but they just managed to make it work.
Just about, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think it's mostly in part to try and differentiate them, because obviously if they're all just bold skeleton heads, then it just sort of... they're all going to look relatively samey and you're just looking at outfits to get by.
Yeah, true. By the way, that guy with the braces, this is a very important character, this dude here, but the guy with the braces was actually John Ratzenberger, Pixar's Lucky Charm.
Oh, yeah. There's a little note somewhere on this Wikipedia page with the casting of they really, really struggled to find a role in the film for John Ratzenberger, because obviously he's not Latino, so he doesn't really fit as any character in this film. However, Uncorrect didn't want to break Pixar's tradition, so they gave him just a minor role, which is one word and line, which makes it Ratzenberger's shortest Pixar role ever.
Well, he didn't, even appear until the end of Inside Out.
I mean, that is true, but he still had, I think, more than sort of one word as a line.
Oh no, this I like this because it's treated as a problem, but it's not an epidemic or anything.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, I think if there were, more than one human child that had managed to get to the land of the dead, there might be a problem. But, since it is just one, can probably just about cope.
Very big stakes already, by the way, because if your picture isn't on an ofrenda, again, you cannot cross that bridge.
Yes, and I think we're probably going to meet someone who's a little bit pissed off right now.
I love that.
Yeah, that one's good.
What time frame does this movie take place in? Because they're usually Apple Macs.
I mean, it's not really very specific as to the time frame. I think that technically it's meant to be now, present day.
No,
but
no,
obviously,
not by a long shot, mate.
Well, but the Land of the Dead is sort of clearly very much more oldie worldy technology. So, and by oldie worldly, I mean like old Apple Macs.
Why
and
don't you
stuff.
just look it up while I enjoy the sumptuous Pixar visuals, mate? Because I could have sworn it was like the 1940s.
I mean, the Land of the Dead might be specifically 1940s.
Look it up, you Volk stubbornness person, you. I asked so much of Richie. But yes, this is Mama Imelda. I guess you could call her the head of the family, Coco's mother, the one who had a husband run out on her and banned music to such a degree that it remained a tradition throughout, like, many generations afterwards.
So, the movie itself, it takes place early 2000s, from what this person who's done some maths has figured out. So here's the maths. So Ernesto de la Cruz died in 1942.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of. Carry on.
Yep. If Coco is as old as we believe her to be, and she seems to be maybe at least 100 years old, she would have been born around 1918, which would have put it at around 1922 when her father left, which would mean that she was about 14 at some point or other. Which means she would have been about 24 when Miguel's grandmother was born, so that would have been 1952. You skip ahead another 20 years to Miguel's mother around 1972, which means that Miguel would probably have been born around 1992, which then means that it would place it somewhere in sort of the early 2000s. But obviously the whole thing is that it's deliberately vague, but Lee Unkrich has said it takes place in 2017, so, I mean, I'll take the word of the director, honestly.
Fine, mate. So much bureaucracy going on here and whatnot, like, I love that even in the Land of the Dead there's still so many rules.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we deal with rules so much in the world that we have now, it would not surprise me that people would continue that onwards when they went into the Land of the Dead.
Don't do it, Miguel. Miguel, don't you do it. No. Oh, you putz.
Yep. Idiot.
You thought you could fuck over the Land of the Dead? There are rules here. The dead do not suffer the living to pass.
Indeed.
So he needs like a proper blessing to go back. Just fuck off.
Well, I mean, the blessing that he got would have been fine had, he not done any music, but he did music, so, kinda couldn't.
No, he's gonna go see Ernesto directly, isn't he?
Of course he is. I mean, you can see sort of the cogs in his brain just clicking away, and there he goes, and he's not coming back.
Yet the dead do not piss. They don't. Also, very telling. Well, so let's see if you noticed. Did you happen to catch that a certain name wasn't said out loud during that entire scene? Begins with E, mate.
Oh, Ernesto.
Yes.
It's very true.
I mean, you guys should probably know why at this point, but just for those of you who are watching this for like the first time with commentary for some reason, I'm trying to keep up the ruse a little bit, Don't get spoiled like Entom got spoiled.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that you do have to sometimes just try your damnedest to avoid spoilers. I mean, I thankfully managed to avoid spoilers for like Avengers Infinity War because I went pretty much to opening weekend because I was just like, I cannot wait any longer. I'm going to do the same with Avengers Endgame because it's just like, I kind of can't cope with trying to avoid spoilers on those ones, so I'm just going to go see them. there's another type of spoiler which is currently pissing me off because I'm trying to avoid it, and YouTube does not like me, and no matter how many times I block things, they still keep popping up.
Well, use Video Blocker, mate. Use it on Firefox, use it on Chrome.
I mean, yeah, but it's infuriating. Thankfully, I've only seen thumbnails at this point, so...
That's good.
I'm okay. And there are things that I sort of knew already, so that's okay. But still, people are assholes.
Alright, new major character, Hector. He is the life of the movie, ironically.
Oh yeah, definitely. And he is voiced by Gael Garcia Bernal. Seeing as, he is kind of quite a major character, probably should go over some of his roles. Not that we'll really know any of them, because it's mostly in sort of Mexico and so on, and across the world. Well, across kind of Southern America. So I think the main thing that a lot of people will know him from is being Rodrigo de Souza in Mozart in the Jungle. And then he has been in quite a few... films over the years, but that's probably, I think, the one that most people would recognise him from. Also, he had performances in the films Bad Education, The Motorcycle Diaries, Amores Perros, Y Tu Mama Tambien, and Babel. So,
beautiful.
Oh, I know, it's great.
Pepita, the world's biggest cat.
I know, and it's adorable, and wouldn't you like, a big, giant dragon kitty in death to sort of be your ally?
That's basically a stan. Let's not mix words here.
I mean, yeah, basically, but still.
I ran into some Alabrijes while playing, I think it was Guacamelee. I was actually surprised to see him, and I don't know why, because that whole thing has a Dia de los Muertos vibe to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's... Guacamelee is basically sort of Mexican lucha libre culture, really, isn't it? So, makes sense.
Great game.
Not played it, but I've definitely heard good things about it, so, brilliant.
Fucking Hector.
I know. He's got a great, well, I was about to say a great sense of himself, but I think that what I meant to say was he has quite a big ego.
Yeah, he does. But maybe our hero can lessen that somewhat. Maybe Hector has a few... Gotta take a run-up for this one. A few skeletons in his closet.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, Richie. I'm sorry. It's the end of the marathon. I'm getting them all out now.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I think we need to sort of put a counter up of how many skeleton puns we can get in throughout this. So I think that's probably the first one that we've gotten. So I'll throw you a bone for that.
Richie, remember what we said about Pixar and holding on jokes? Thank you. Great design in Hector, by the way, because you'll notice that he doesn't walk like other skeletons. There is a thematic reason for that, but aesthetic-wise, his braces are actually holding him up.
Exactly, which is just really, really cool.
Alright, let's go see what's in here. Don't go towards the light, they say, but I need to. The story will not progress otherwise. Alright, the dress he borrowed to dress as that one famous lady.
Yeah, Frida Kahlo.
There is an actual Frida Kahlo in the film. Isn't she like a performance artist? What is exactly her role?
Yes. So the real Frida Kahlo was a Mexican artist who painted many portraits, self-portraits, and works inspired by nature and artifacts of Mexico. And she was quite a sort of forward thinker for her age, and explored sort of all sorts of questions of identity, post-colonialism, gender, class, and race in Mexico society. It's quite a fascinating thing, and yes, this is the the Frida Kahlo, I believe, because it basically the reason that most people recognise it, it's the monobrow.
Yeah, the unibrow.
It's that most people sort of recognise, but yeah, she was a very, very important person to Mexico. And funnily enough, when I was in London, because I went down for a week, went to the Victoria and Albert Museum, and at that time they had a Frida Kahlo exhibit, which I didn't get the chance to see because you had to pay for it, and I was a bit of a cheapskate because I was just like, well, I've already spent a lot of money and on my trip down to London, and also, you know, I can explore the rest of this museum for free, which I didn't realise going in. I thought I was going to have to pay. So it's just like, I'm just going to get all the freebie stuff. Also, I think they just sold all the tickets to it for that day, so it's just like, well, not happening.
Yes, that's what it's missing. It's dull. It's too quiet. Ha, perfect.
Nice.
There are actually other famous Hispanic personalities in the movie. Obviously, ones who have passed away at this point. So see if you can spot them.
Oh yeah, I mean, I will not be able to tell you because I don't know really any Mexican artists and musicians, because clearly it's not a culture that I have had much sort of connection to. I mean, why would I? I'm a white middle class guy from Nottingham in the middle of the UK. Like, how the hell am I going to have really had anything to do with Mexican culture? But it is always really cool when you do see things like this, where they have gone to that extra effort to depict people that people of that culture would instantly recognise, because that's just really awesome.
Ooh, I think chorizo is meant to be slang for something else.
I mean, no, there is an actual reason why they're calling him chorizo, which we will learn. Which is that, yeah, he choked on some chorizo and that's how he died, which is very embarrassing.
Yeah, well, that's what he remembers anyway. That may not be the case.
I mean, that's very true.
I see. We play there, we play our way into Ernesto's heart.
Indeed. Also, you know, we managed to just get there immediately, and it makes it a lot faster.
Yeah, true. Although we are on a time limit here. Like, if Miguel stays in the land of the dead too long, he becomes a permanent resident, so to speak.
Yeah, which you definitely don't want to happen, because that is not okay.
That's very useful.
I mean, I quite like this whole effectively detective vision in just real life without having to put sort of a weird filter over it.
I mean, you're not wrong, but just describing it as detective vision, Jesus.
I know, that's such a dated reference now, my god. Also, we're going to get a quite touching scene, I think, in a minute. But one that is ultimately a little bit pointless, but it does have a point.
I wouldn't even call it pointless. It sets up a major stake, as it were.
I mean, yes, it does that. It sets up sort of the stakes of a certain thing, but that is literally its sole purpose. But it is still quite a touching scene.
Sole purpose. I get it.
Unintended puns are the best.
They really are. They really are. God, they all look like fucking connectables.
I was about to say they look more like Dream Eaters, to be fair.
Oh God, I went with the one that's slightly less insulting.
Oh, come on, the Dream Eaters are at least slightly adorable.
I guess. Maybe Alibri Hayes were the inspiration for Dream Eaters. I don't know.
God only knows. I mean, to be fair, I think they just thought, oh, let's just randomly throw some stuff in here, and they did, and that's what we ended up with.
So yeah, this place is where all the forgotten people basically have to chill out before their time comes, so to speak. So we've seen the high life from afar. We've essentially been walking through the middle class areas of the land of the dead, and this is the slums.
Yes, and this is sort of the really, really sad bit, because this is what happens when people start to forget you. You start to vanish.
Oh, any more?
Hmm.
All right. Muscle memory, or lack thereof, don't fail me now.
Also, to be fair, actually playing a guitar when you're a skeleton probably be slightly difficult, because you sort of need. I mean, I suppose you could do it with
They're
your
held
phone,
together
but
by fucking magic, mate.
I mean, yes, but half sort of the thing of being able to pluck and play a guitar is sort of the friction between your skin and the strings, but still, this is, yeah, it's just a touching moment.
This is a song about a very ugly woman who the guy still thinks he wouldn't be good enough for. It's actually kind of sweet in a backhanded way.
Oh yeah, I believe it's called Everyone Knows Juanita.
Hector is surprisingly mature when he needs to be. That's another clue that will actually... It'll all come together to give you his grand identity before the proper reveal. Reveal, even.
Um, but I mean, if you've seen any film, you can probably figure out exactly where this is going, but there we go. Well, we have this sort of wonderful ditty. It's probably a good idea to just briefly talk about the film's score and music. So, the score itself is composed by Michael Giacchino, who is sort of... he's amazing. He's done so many phenomenal scores.
Is he working on Spider-Man Far From Home?
I believe he might be. Most people would probably recognise him from being the composer for The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Inside Out, Zootopia. He did do Spider-Man Homecoming. Obviously, he did Coco. I mean, his Incredibles score is sort of the one where I'm just like, oh my god. He also did the score for Sky High. And yes, he is doing the score for Spider-Man Far From Home. So he's got a great sort of stuff under his belt. But really, he only does the score stuff. The actual songs, most of them are written by Jermaine Franco and Adrian Molina, who I'm not quite sure who they are, but I think that they are... it seems like they are they're just part of Pixar, it looks like.
That's fine, that's fine.
Adrian Molina is an animator, storyboard artist, screenwriter, and lyricist.
Okay. Few things there. Number one, the final death is what happens when no one in the land of the living remembers you in, the afterlife. And you can't cheat that system by knowing them in the afterlife and then going back and remember them. Doesn't work like that. And number two, did you notice that only one glass was drunk?
Yep.
That is foreshadowing, my friend.
Oh yes, indeedy.
Do you think he really knows Ernesto? Because he's certainly, talking a big show here.
Do you want me to answer honestly, or pretending like I haven't watched the film?
God damn it, Richie, just fucking play the game once in a while. I would argue probably my favourite song coming up very shortly.
I would say that this is probably my second favourite song in the film. My favourite one is right at the end of the film.
Okay. Okay, that's our ticket in then.
Indeed, and also love that there's a cantina here, and this stage is sort of slightly crappy, but still quite flashy. And wow.
Nice. Fucking Skrillex.
I mean, of course. I mean, at this point, I think that really Skrillex just needs to just sneak his way into basically every single Disney film since he is such a fan.
You realise if you take the X out of his name and rearrange the letters, it becomes Killers.
I mean, of course.
The organisation's hiring, but anywho, yeah, Remember Me is a bit trite, it's a bit predictable, so we need to go with something a little bit different here. And, I don't know, maybe throw in a grito every now and then?
I mean, of course, it's the only way to go through these things.
I guess the audience loves big ensemble bands.
I mean, who doesn't? I mean, a big band, sort of, it's a great sound.
Well, I had to play in secret. It's actually kind of awkward. Here's the start of the fucking synopsis to read.
I mean, yeah. But, I mean, it actually brings up an interesting thing of, are you a musician if you've performed or not? Because, obviously, some people would say, well, you're not an actual musician until you have, played your music for other people, but then if you just played music for yourself, then surely you are technically a musician, because you are a person who plays music.
Well, you are, but not by, trade or to a professional capacity.
I mean, yeah, but that's sort of throwing up a slightly different angle to the question of, are you a musician or not? Because you then say, are you a professional musician or not? Because it's like, so for me, I would say that I am a writer, despite the fact that I haven't, published any written works as yet. However, I will be doing soon.
Good on you, man. Good on you. So, I hate to bring him up, but would Speedy Gonzalez's, Arriba, Arriba, Andale be a grito?
I suspect so. As I said, it's not really something, I'm gonna see if I can, get there, but my brain's going to go, and how do I spell that word? So I'm probably not even going to bother, because it's just going to be an absolute disaster.
I think it's Grito. I looked this up after watching the film. Basically an exclamation of hype.
Yes, you are actually correct, a grito. Common Mexican interjection, basically just Spanish for shout.
There you go. Got the crowd going, and now your soul is going. Ah, love this one.
I know, un poco loco, which, I mean, I don't even need to look up a translation that basically just means a little crazy.
Mm-hmm. I think it was this point where I was like, holy shit, I'm watching a Pixar musical. It didn't really hit me until now.
I know, and I love that, because it's one of the things that I think Pixar has never really explored, which is kind of disappointing, because you sort of had the whole thing of, well, Disney are the musical people, Pixar are the non-musical people. It's nice now that maybe after Coco they've realised, well, maybe you can do a musical if that is what you want to do. And sort of it just opens up the doors a bit more, I suppose.
Oh, I love Hector's dancing in this, because he seems to be the only skeleton who does, move his body parts around in a non-human way. Like, they're just all spinning hither and thither.
Well, I mean, I guess he's just sort of rolling with it all, because nobody cares about him, so he's just like, well, I'll just let my sort of body do what it likes.
Mm-hmm. He's very good at dancing, almost like a natural showman.
Quite right. Also, as we know, he can play the guitar quite well, actually, I might add. Also, I do like this scene, because obviously everyone... It's that whole sort of typical misdirection of them, all the family going around going, have you seen a living boy? And he's right on stage, right in front of their eyes, and they can't see him.
Yeah.
Which is kind of just like, well, of course.
I have heard criticism where it's like, oh, how do they just not look at the stage? do you remember what fucking kicked off the story in the first place? The entire family hates music.
Exactly. And while they're aware that obviously Miguel likes music and wants to perform music, they wouldn't be thinking about that. They would just be thinking, we need to find Miguel. And really, that's not the place you would look for a child at all, in any way, shape or form.
Fucking Hector, what a hypocrite.
I know.
Oh, this is a very interesting parallel given what happened at the start of the movie.
I know, and also, considering Miguel's whole thing of technically what he's doing right now is being selfish because all he wants to do is play music and kind of sod everybody else.
What do you think about Dante the dog, mate?
Dante's cute. I mean, I like that it's called Dante because, I mean, obviously Dante Alighieri wrote the Divine Comedy, going through Inferno, Purgatorio, Paradiso, all that jazz, and so I do like that because obviously it's a name that is inherently associated with death and the afterlife. But in terms of the dog himself, he's sort of just the right level of adorable to get by.
Contrast very nicely with fucking Pepita over here.
I know.
I mean, I guess there are certain questions one could ask, like, is denying him music abusive behavior, or do they really want the best for him,
I would say that it's one of those situations where it really does sort of sit right in the middle. Because, I mean, as we see here with Mama Imelda, that she loved music, but her husband broke her heart so badly that she felt that she had to abandon it and prevent it from ever entering her family's life again because it brought pain to them.
Yep, Coco.
Exactly.
To an extent, Miguel. I think that's a bit naive.
Well, I mean, I suppose that is sort of one of those childish responses to family of when you are young, you expect that your family is always going to be on your side. They're sort of going to defend everything you do, look after you, everything's going to be perfect and fine. But sort of as you get older, you sort of start to realise that that's just not how things are. Like, you realise that sometimes families just fall out catastrophically and just they're not on the same wavelength. Sometimes you end up with families who do stick together and they are sort of a really tight unit. Others sort of just abandon each other and just sort of dissipate with nariest kind of whisper, and it's unfortunate, but it is it's a life lesson that you do have to learn at some point.
I love that these guys are just good. They didn't turn out to be like assholes just because they were the most popular band. They're just nice guys.
I know. I mean, it is one of those sort of just nice things of going, the musicians are good. I mean, to be fair, musicians joining forces, that does tend to happen quite a lot, but it's always fun.
There was a cameo back there from, I think, El Santo. That might be his name. We are talking over this, obviously, so I apologise. But regardless of his name, he was one of the most popular, luchadores of his day.
You are indeed correct, yes, El Santo. And I know that the lady there is also a really famous person. But I don't quite know. I'm actually just getting the Pixar wiki up here to see whether it will let me know this sort of magic.
It's okay, mate. Don't worry about it.
Annoyingly, it hasn't. But I'm pretty sure that that female skeleton is another sort of famous person. But still, what I can say is that the DJ at this, epic party is a caricature of Mexican rapper Camilo Lara Alvarez, which is right here.
I love how this is a very, I suppose not subtle, but it is in the grand scheme of the film. This is supposed to be a celebration about, the connection between, the dead and their loved ones, but Ernesto managed to make it all about himself.
Well, I mean, of course, because, clearly he has quite an ego.
Well, there's still, a big celebration thing that he does for the purpose of, the holiday, but I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Maybe, but, still, Miguel has some guts to go on with this.
This is an underrated song. I wouldn't say it's one of my favourites, but it was definitely a memorable one.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, this is The World Is Mi Familia, which it is great, and once again it's written by Franco and Molina. One of the things I feel like I should point out is that, so Remember Me, which is the song that won the Oscar and is the one that sort of, I think most people remember from Coco, was actually written by Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez, who did the soundtrack for Frozen and sort of all that jazz. Part of that does slightly annoy me because I'm just like, I love the Lopez's, I think they're great, but I do think that Franco and Molina probably should have gotten more recognition because ultimately their songs are a lot more memorable than Remember Me in terms of the actual songs.
Oh, pennies in the air. And there we go.
Indeed.
Interesting how Ernesto didn't know he had a grandson.
I know, you would have thought he would have done, but then to be fair, you've got to think about these things of big sort of celebrity, may have, and also loved by all, may have had a few sort of bits on the side. Miguel could be sort of secret grandson, great-grandson, whatever, just random love child results.
Fucking Hector. That's not killer.
I know.
That's not her. Get out of here.
I like how you're about to say Frida Kahlo.
Look, alright. This is the Chelsea Palace, okay? Just get over it.
But in that scene, we did just see two other cameos. So George Negrit and Pedro Infante. It was literally like a second, maybe 2 seconds. They were the two real-life singers who provided the inspiration for Ernesto de la Cruz, which is great.
Hope they don't have his darker secrets.
I hope not either.
Very interesting use of language during that sequence. He kept saying, my grandson and my,
I know. Well, obviously, ego, claiming everything to be his. He thinks everything should be his, so, just the ego. Anybody who has sort of that glittery jacket in the afterlife really probably does need to reconsider their death choices.
Wow, Richie. How much do you agree with the sentiment, Richie?
Um, I personally sort of don't agree with it all that much. Like, obviously, I believe wholeheartedly in sometimes you know what you're meant to do. Like, in my heart of hearts, I know that I want to be a writer. That's sort of what feels right to me, and I'm going to sort of go after that goal. But I don't think that personally I could ever go after that goal to the detriment of my loved ones if it was causing them harm or if it was turning me into someone that's not me. I don't think I would be able to sort of keep doing that because to me, family is hugely important and I would never want to sort of hurt them. So it's a fine balance sometimes as to whether kind of following your dreams is right or kind of listening to your family.
Didn't notice him right away. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You remember me now, you asshole? I can give up the pretense now because this is the scene. Look at the lighting, for God's sake.
I know.
Dun dun! That's why the song is called Remember Me and not Remember You.
Yeah. Also, the whole thing of if you actually wanted people to remember him, you would have said that my late great colleague Hector wrote all of my songs and I'm carrying on his memory. That's what you would say, quite literally.
Huh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it sounds terrifyingly familiar. It's a good job we got to this point in the movie at just this moment in time.
I think they're selected clips just playing over and over, honestly.
I mean, it would not surprise me.
Remember that one glass that was left undrunk when the dude faded away?
Uh-huh.
He was heading back home. God damn it. What kind of darkness do you have inside you to, like, snap to this degree when, like, fame is slowly, leaving you? Well, slowly, very fastly, actually. Fastly, quickly, Tom, come on.
Don't worry, we're about to watch someone, get murdered, so logic in the brain is not necessarily going to be working entirely as quickly as it should be, as evidenced by, that entire sentence.
Yeah, poisoning is not a fun way to go, and you'll notice that he planted the idea of the spoiled chorizo in his head before he passed out. Oof.
Of course we have kind of skeleton security, of course we do.
The liar revealed, and the good guy wasn't the good guy after all. Where have I seen this one before? King Candy.
Literally everywhere.
You're not wrong. Fucking Lotso, and obviously King Candy. Are there any more?
I'm trying to think of, obviously King Candy's Disney rather than Pixar. I mean, the opposite way around, you've got the whatchamacallit, the critic in Ratatouille, because you think he's the villain and he's not. Um, God, you put me on the spot with this one, Tom.
It's fine, don't worry about it. I'm just gonna go ahead and keep this. It's not going on no a friender, but you, my friend. No, I don't feel like giving you my blessing now. But you'll notice that didn't light up at all.
I know. Well, I mean, I think that sort of explains everything, really.
God, that timing with the lighting and whatnot, his smug dick expression. Oh, it's good.
I know. And also, I love how sort of just the twist on the seize your moment from a quite positive, you're going to do great things, seize your moment, to just that really grotty, yucky seize your moment, which just makes me feel dirty. Also, can I just say that water looks freaking incredible?
It does, it does. Aren't these based on like real life sinkholes and whatnot?
I suspect so, yes.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you to get the deets on them, but remember me also has a twist meaning, depending on context.
It does indeed. Which, I mean, I suppose is potentially why it did do so well with the Oscars, because it is arguably one of the most important songs in a narrative that I've seen in a very long time. I think my only sort of with it is just that it is just it's a lovely ditty, but it doesn't necessarily, and it's got real great emotional impact in relation to the story. But I would say that outside of the narrative, all it is a lovely ditty.
Yeah, I mean, it's meant to be a personal thing from one guy to his blank. I mean, we'll find out soon, but time's running short. This is extra tragic because it's not like people willfully forgetting someone. There's a major reason why his daughter is forgetting him.
Exactly. The penny has dropped.
It wasn't Ernesto in the photo. It was, in fact, Hector.
Indeed.
I mean, they both have the same colour hair, and they're both good at music. That's the most fucking tenuous connection ever.
Yeah, that was very, very tenuous, but still, this is a lovely moment.
Don't forget that that's not going to save Hector, because obviously
No.
it needs to be someone in the living world, obviously. But hey, at least they can die together.
It's very true. Although, sort of, I suppose the one flaw that I do see with sort of the logic that occurs here is the whole thing of obviously when Miguel gets back, him remembering Hector is not going to be able to keep Hector going. I suppose it's the whole thing, you can't go one way and back over, but then there are sort of no rules for kids from, well, people from the real world coming over to the land of the dead whilst they're still alive.
I mean, if Miguel lived alone and put him on the ofrenda, I think that wouldn't work. But since the entire family doesn't know Hector personally, they do remember him.
I mean, maybe. I don't blooming know.
Oh god, here we go.
I know.
Right, here's a little lullaby to his little girl.
I know, and it is absolutely adorable.
And then it got perverted into a big, flashy song, you know?
I know, which it clearly just is not.
Well, she's not going to for much longer, I'm afraid.
I mean, it's true, but...
I wasn't trying to be backhanded there, I swear.
I know. Well, I mean, hopefully, we're going to have to find a way out of this pit, because it can't end like this.
Let's hope a fucking Kitty X Machina comes along and saves us.
Well, I mean, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Ah, Negrito, it comes back and has plot relevance. And the whole cave collapses on top of them.
Now, actually, whilst, we are about to get, the day being saved, I feel I should probably bring up, obviously I had a little bit of a moan about Lopez and Anderson Lopez with Remember Me, but apparently, originally they had written many more songs for the film than ultimately what ended up in the actual film. One piece that survived in storyboard until very late into production was an expository song that explained the Mexican holiday to viewers to begin the film. And in another song, Miguel's mother explained the tradition of shoemaking in their family and how that meant that Miguel was not allowed to pursue music. But clearly, both of those ideas for songs are a little bit rubbish, so I'm quite glad they got chopped.
Extraneous, really. I think Dia de los Muertos is so ingrained in, pop culture that you could just explain it in a couple of lines.
Probably, and also, oh my god, Dante's multicoloured.
Now, was he an Alebrije to begin with, or just did he gain his wings, so to speak?
Honestly, nobody knows, but that is absolutely fine.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm gonna cast Balloon, Ernesto. Looking everywhere except in more than one direction. Good job.
I know. It's just like, for the love of God, look behind you.
There's still a family at the end of the day.
Well, of course.
Ugh, get away. Aw, it was a good kitty after all. Yep, the family that fucks up together stays together. But we can still have music too. That's another,
Exactly.
That's another addendum at the bottom of the contract. Very interesting. She obviously still cares for him, but that anger is still very real and valid.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to think, for the rest of her life when she was alive, she was left with the belief that he'd left her and her young daughter to pursue music and didn't care about them. And then he had just the miserable undecency to go and die on them. And then, sort of, obviously, there's all this time in the afterlife where he's clearly tried to make it up to her, but obviously doesn't have the factoid that he, did actually get murdered and was on his way back. I don't know why he never said, I was trying to come home, but it might be that, she didn't believe him. Because, I mean, why would you, if you'd spent the rest of your life believing one thing when the reality was actually something completely different?
Yeah. Also, undecency.
Yep, I couldn't figure out the right word, so I just went with something that sounded roughly approximate to what I meant.
We truly are two birds of a feather, Rich.
Indeed we are. And, I mean, I feel it's only fitting that, we're slowly losing the ability of language in the final film of the Third HFC Disneython.
Indeed, mate, indeed. I've enjoyed this one, as scattershot as it has been.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we've had some really, really fun films in here. It's been a lot of fun all the way through. It's just been the practicalities of getting it created that were the issues.
Such as adult life, I'm afraid,
Yeah, adult life and then Christmas kind of just gets in the way a little bit.
She incorporated fire like she said she was going to. Credit to her.
Indeed.
I like how they're so impressed but they don't know what to make of it. But Frida's on their side. See, Frida's the key to all this, because she's got a better eyebrow than we've ever had before. Alright, well, they sure are a family. They're operating like the fucking X-Men right now, and here's Magneto. You'll notice that Mama Imelda actually does hit with the heel of her shoe, like I mentioned not to do at the start of the film, so...
Quite right, and also the actual heel, because it's not quite a high-heeled shoe, but it's close enough, and really, he deserves that.
Right now.
And I do quite like this, because it's sort of... it's Imelda kind of channeling her anger from being against Hector into being sort of a really great force for actually achieving anything. And this is just a really ridiculously silly fight scene, and I love it.
You could call it contrived, but I don't think these security guys were ever shown to be, super-de-duper on top of things.
Pretty much, yeah. The only reason that really they had any success with stopping Hector and Miguel is because, Miguel's a 12-year-old boy, and Hector's skinny as anything and can't really fight to save his life.
Oh, we have a proper tune coming up here now, guys.
We do indeed, and it is actually a real Mexican folk song. It is La Llorona, which is literally the weeping woman, and this is definitely quite an awesome song. And really quite effective. And also, I'm looking at the original Spanish, and it is so long.
Mm-hmm. I would say this, On Poco Loco, and the final song of the movie before the credits is my, top 3.
Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I personally would put the final song of the film above the other two, but that is only just because it fills me with sort of such joy, and also I cry every time. But I'd say sort of those three are definitely my highlights. And also what's really cool about this one is obviously it's Mama Imelda kind of finally sort of giving into the music that she did actually love, but sort of had to go against because she was so hurt by Hector.
That's Michael Giancarlo as the conductor, by the way.
Oh, of course!
It was nice to have one fully Spanish song in the movie,
Oh, definitely, because obviously it's the entire culture. It's the language of Mexico, and it sort of, I think it would have been a mistake had they not used an actual traditional song in there at all.
Credit to him, he's still a great singer even though he can't write a jot of music.
Well, I mean, yes, this is true, but really, I do also quite like the just general choreography of this scene, because it's that whole sort of trying to escape, trying to kind of catch up, and sort of it's really well kind of shot. I know it's an animated film, but sort of the cinematography of the whole scene is sort of just really well done.
You know, it's how he disguised that scream as a grito at the end.
I know, it's very smooth.
Ah, the flame's still there, even if they have no organs for the flame to be kept inside. Oh,
I know!
but then...
Yeah, about that, we've still got another kind of 10, 15 minutes of the film left, so...
Not necessary, but the payoff is great, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. And also, Ernesto de la Cruz, I think Mr. Waternoose is calling. He wants his movie ending back.
Oh no! Oh no! It's funny how they believe this scrap of evidence.
I know, but then to be fair, he does, then go and throw a living child off the side of a building. So...
I guess that's a form of evidence, yeah. It's fine. I'll close the rant document I was writing, it's done. Pepita? Hello? Could I get some aerial assistance here, please?
It would be nice. You took your damn time.
Well, they can only come in to save them at the most dramatic moment.
Well, I mean, of course, but still, the photo's gone by now, so that's kind of screwed that one over a little bit.
Well, maybe not, mate, maybe not.
Well, I mean, we know exactly where this film is going to go for its finale, and clearly Hector being forgotten is not quite what that is going to be.
Oh, he's bringing out the oldies. Nope, not good enough. I gotta say, this was one of my favourite, again, shots, it's animated, but, watch Pepita in the monitor and just come through the curtain like that behind him. That was,
It's great.
I mean, what can you really do to someone who will be remembered regardless of what happens here now? He won't die again, but that doesn't mean you can't extremely inconvenience him.
And, also embarrass him for the rest of his afterlife.
Ironic deaths are the best deaths.
Oh, they're perfect.
Oh, you.
Everything.
Guys, still final dying over here.
Yeah, kind of, yeah, need a little bit of rescuing immediately.
Oh yeah, there was a time limit. I completely forgot about that. I was just enjoying the movie too much.
I know. I mean, I suppose it's sort of one of the things of just going, everything sort of does come together at the last minute, a little bit maybe too much, but I mean, obviously that's the stakes they set up at the beginning. It makes sense that it's all going to sort of come together in sort of the last minute, but
Let me offer you a bit of perspective there. I just watched the season 5 finale of Steven Universe, yeah.
Yes.
And it was obviously a bit rushed because they thought it was going to be the series finale. And that's fine. But I feel like in spite of something being rushed, that doesn't take away from what it manages to accomplish. And for that and for this, I feel it was not only perfectly valid, but really super enjoyable and well done.
Oh yeah, it's totally fair. Totally agree with you on that. I think it's sort of one of those things where you can be pernickety over these types of things and say, well, maybe if they did this, maybe if they did that, it might have made it sort of even better.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where sometimes, like, I mean, frequently I may nitpick things or I may kind of sort of criticize things, but it doesn't mean that I don't really like the stuff that I've sort of watched or play or whatever. It's just sort of that sometimes I care a lot about it and I'm just like, well, maybe if you tried that, that might have made it even better and so on and so forth. But this scene just, oh my god, this scene, it ruined me.
One last addendum. Things can always be better. Just remember to celebrate what you have.
Exactly. But yeah, I would say this is the scene that made me ugly cry, and I left the cinema and was just like, oh, I need a minute.
I know I said this destroyed me. I think I, cried more during the finale of Inside Out, but this was definitely one of the great cries. There have been many cries throughout history, and this was definitely in the top 3.
Yeah, agreed.
Without his face, she just can't remember him properly.
No, but there is sort of, one thing that they could do to help Coco remember Hector, her father.
You notice how his father softened immediately?
Oh yeah.
What a good dad. And mum.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What better apology than a musical one?
Quite right.
This hits very hard for me because I didn't really understand the impact of it at the time, but my granddad suffered from dementia before he passed away.
Yeah.
And I remember my mum saying something akin to, or along the lines of, he didn't even know where he was when he passed.
I will definitely say that sort of living with dementia or Alzheimer's is probably sort of one of the most awful illnesses, I suppose, because you end up losing the person. And I mean, my granddad now has got dementia, and it's sort of one of those of just going, oh, and sort of you do have that moment of just going, right. And I know sort of one of the things that a lot of people do is always try to find sort of that spark of who the person was, and clearly sort of here, just that one song just brings the life back to Coco, and it's just wonderful.
And she remembers that, exactly. But what have we here in this drawer of secrets? The final piece of the puzzle.
Indeed.
You think about it, that would have sold the movie really quickly.
I mean, really, yes, it would have done.
But I think now was the only point it could have come out, really.
I think so, because obviously, while what Mama Imelda did was, she was totally within her right to do it, she did sort of end up creating everything that occurred. But obviously, the major blame goes on Ernesto de la Cruz for being a murdering swine.
Yep, but there Never gonna forget him. They're always gonna remember him, but hey, Hector's gonna be remembered all the more positively because of it.
Exactly.
There's a conspicuous absence of a character here, Rich.
I know, and it breaks my heart. But it's sort of one of the things of, it was coming, and oh my god, even now, like I've not even I've watched the film, but I'm not like properly watching it. I'm still just like, oh god, tears to eyes. Of there's Coco, and there's the picture of Hector and Imelda and baby Coco, and just like, oh my god. And oh, this song, I love it so much. It's called Proud Corazon, and I believe that Corazon basically means family, and that is just.
It may mean heart. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm just gonna double check.
I will say, here's a little tidbit you may not have noticed, but your brain did. Hector's colouring was very faded and dusty throughout the movie, but it's a lot brighter now.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you are actually right, it does mean heart.
There you go.
So it is Proud Heart, which is just... It's just lovely. And I think the reason that I love this song so much is just it's so hopeful and joyful, and it just caps off this movie so brilliantly well.
You got to... I'm starting now, fuck. You got to see Coco again, they're all crossing the bridge together, hand in hand. Even the Elabrijes are coming with them.
Honestly, this is just sort of the perfect ending to this film, and it does just make me so incredibly happy. It's a wonderful film and a wonderful surprise, honestly, because I don't think I necessarily expected it to be as good as it was.
Same,
and
yeah.
It's phenomenal. It's up there with Pixar's best, easily.
Definitely. And just all the families, like, getting in on the music and whatnot. Oh,
I know! And look at Hector and Imelda dancing together, and then he pulls the guitar and just... Oh my god, I love it.
excellent.
Mwah, perfect.
So, mate, Disney's Coco. Disney Pixar's Coco, even. Credit where credit is motherfucking due.
Yes. Oh, just... I love it. It is a great film. It's definitely one of Pixar's best, and I really do love it. It's great.
I can give it is like some of the plot beats are predictable, but
Yeah.
you're not going to get an original movie every time, guys. Like, if you want to criticize it for it, go ahead. But this is one of those things where, like, the whole package is greater than the sum of its parts, or however the fucking phrase goes. You know, the music's fantastic, cast is great, like, the characters are really likable, and they all are believable in their motivations and whatnot. Like, even Ernesto, you get why he did what he did, but that doesn't mean he's any less of a prick at the end of the day, and I couldn't think of a better way to cap off this smaller, more intimate Disneython. Speaking of, Disneython will return someday. We'll probably call it something corny like Disneython Forever. No plans to do anything in 2019 marathon-wise, but this was done to lead into a very special sort of game. So enjoy you some Kingdom Hearts 3, guys, and Helldragon and I will see you in March for the KH3 playthrough.
And I'll see you in February for mine.
Very good, Richie. Very good. Bye, guys. Thanks so much for listening or watching. Bye-bye.